Hi and welcome to Check Your Thread, the podcast that will help you sew more sustainably. My name's Zoe and I'm obsessed with sewing. I've been blogging about it for over 14 years and I'm the creator and host of the popular handmade wardrobe challenge Me Made May. But like many people, I've become increasingly concerned about the climate crisis and the way that my lifestyle contributes to it. So in this podcast, I'll be nerding out about making clothes whilst exploring how to minimise the negative impact that it may have. I really hope you'll join me in this journey. Okay, so despite thinking about sewing as much as I do, I must admit that I tend to carry around a pretty narrow view of what it is and what it's for. To me, sewing's an enjoyable, relaxing, creatively fulfilling way to clothe myself and my family. I also like to think that sewing plays a role in how I can live more sustainably. But when I was approached a couple of months back by a member of a social enterprise called Kundakala, my narrow view of the role of sewing received a much-needed shake-up. Kundakala is an incredible and inspiring organisation based in London that is changing the difficult and sometimes isolated lives of women from ethnic minorities. I spoke to the founder, Poornima, who told me about how they see sewing skills as a powerful tool that can change lives. For the women on their programmes, learning to sew is preventing loneliness, providing connection, offering employment opportunities and raising self-esteem. Stick around for this conversation, it's a really powerful one. But first, are you doing okay, awesome listener? Have you been having a good week since the last episode dropped? I still suspect that I'm allergic to every plant at every stage of growth and decay. But beyond my hay fever strife, I've had a very productive week with podcast-related tasks and sewing-related tasks. We are hurtling towards the 100th episode of this podcast, which is pretty wild. Just to let you know, there is so much good stuff coming up until the 100th. Then I've got something fun planned for that, and then I'm probably going to take a couple of weeks off of releasing episodes to enjoy the summer break with my kids. Thanks so much to those who provided some feedback on last week's episode on self-coaching for sewing success with my pal Kim Witten. Kat messaged me via Instagram to say, "This episode was so good. I loved all these tips for self-reflection and being deliberate about checking in with yourself while sewing. It could make the whole sewing process far more meaningful." Thanks for that, Kat. So Kim and I actually aren't done with this topic. We're going to get our heads together soon to figure out how to both expand on and distill this topic further to help sewers benefit more directly and in different ways. I will, of course, keep you abreast with any developments. So I've been sewing up a storm this week, finishing up my shoulder bag, which I love and I've just posted about on Instagram, and then making some much needed items for my kids. I made a bucket hat from my daughter from the same checkerboard twill remnant as my bag. I made her some sleeping shorts from an old baby's cot sheet. I then gathered some stained and worn out school polo shirts that were too wrecked to pass on to other kids and reclaimed some of the fabric from those to make my son some sleeping shorts. I'm also going to use the rest of those to make some cleaning cloths. I also cut down some slightly too small PE joggers this week to make my daughter some PE shorts. Those were desperately needed now that the weather has turned roasting. Okay, sustainability wins. These are loose gardening related wins, but I'm claiming them. My daughter and I harvested a bunch of homegrown rhubarb and made some rhubarb cordial, which was delicious. I just used a recipe on BBC Good Food, so if you should find yourself with some rhubarb, I recommend that as a fun, different way to use it other than in desserts. Plus, my husband was doing dinner the other day and he hadn't bought enough veggie items for the meal, but I was able to quickly harvest some curly kale to pad out the meal. I was so excited to do that because that's the first kale we've had this year. It's not the healthiest way to prepare kale, but we usually roast it in the oven for about 20 minutes with olive oil and sea salt, and that makes kale crisps. They are so freaking delicious and basically my most favourite thing to eat. Also been enjoying some lettuce and some various herbs from the garden whilst we wait for a lot of other stuff to become edible. I do also have a gardening related sustainability fail that I must admit to. Despite a lot of talk and a lot of seed sowing, there has been very little in the garden for the pollinators to enjoy so far. Yes, I planted a bunch of pollinator-friendly flower seeds, but almost all of them have yet to actually flower so far. My goal next year is to make sure there's some flowers for them to enjoy as early as possible in the growing season. Ginormous thanks this week goes to Christina for signing up to support the podcast via Patreon. Christina, you are epic. If you appreciate all the shizzle and bizzle that I put out on this feed, please consider throwing a few quid into the figurative hat so I can keep it going. Please find the link to do so in the show notes and on the website checkyourthread.com. Right, back to Poornima and Kundakala. I'm so incredibly happy to be bringing you this episode. So please give this your ears and please sync them out online and give them some support, even if that's just some kind of virtual thumbs up. Okay, please enjoy. Thank you so much for giving me some of your time this morning. Are you doing well? Have you had a good weekend?
Yes, really good. Lots of gardening, so I'm feeling my age today.
Oh, bless you. How big's your garden?
It's fairly big. We've got a big front garden, which I haven't even looked at this year. So we're just pretending that we're wilding or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's good for nature.
But we've been working on the back garden, and that's quite satisfying, to have flower beds. And
Gorgeous. Yeah. And last week was World Bee Day.
Yes, we've got loads of bees. I'm really happy about that, actually. Checking them out yesterday. Really.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Okay, so I'm really looking forward to hearing more about your social enterprise. But first, I'd really like to get to know you a little bit more. So if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, if you could tell us who you are, where you are, and what fills your days.
Oh, interesting question. So my name is Poornima Kirloskar. I live in London. And my days are actually really terribly full. And that's because I have started this social enterprise called Kundakala alongside my day job.
Oh, really?
Which is for a social enterprise called Cook for Good. So my days are really busy. I do the Kundakala work on the weekends, and the work is mainly organizing my workshops, getting funding bids out, and things like that. I have an 18-year-old son who gives me very little information on when he comes and where he goes and when he's expected back. But dinner should always be on the table.
Okay, well, he's not helping the situation.
Yeah.
So you've got two social enterprises on the go, basically.
Yes.
Right, so what's the other one?
So the other one, I work for it. It's founded by a friend of mine called Karen Mattison, and it's called Cook for Good.
Right.
And Cook for Good essentially is in an estate in King's Cross, and they run a surplus food pantry.
Amazing. Awesome.
Yeah.
So did you take a lot of what you learnt working for that one to put into the Kundakala one that you've set up?
And Karen and I have been together on another social enterprise.
Oh.
So literally, it's just my journey with her that has kind of made me think about Kundakala and how I want to, start it, and, the things I should do and I shouldn't do, the things to watch out for.
Yeah.
So it's been great. And sometimes I feel very tired because of the two jobs, but I always feel quite grateful that I have the experience of one to feed into the other.
That must be really nice as well, to have somebody as well that you can talk to about it and bounce ideas off of as well.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear more about your mum, because I believe that she was the inspiration behind Kundakala.
Yes.
So I'd love to know, it says on your website that she was a really distinctive woman and quite unconventional. So that sounds fascinating. I'd love to hear more about her and where the idea to honour her in this way came from.
So my mum was born in 1932 in the Bombay of that age, which was absolutely bustling and, full of new ideas. And my mum was the eldest. And although Bombay was really bustling, it was still very conventional in the sense that women had a certain role in society and in the lives of their families. And so most of them got married when they were in their 20s.
Right.
And, their purpose was to look after their families. But my mum got married at the age of 33. She had an arranged marriage. I think she rejected a lot of suitors who came in because she just thought they were not intellectually compatible.
Were her parents tearing their hair out thinking, come on?
Yeah, I think they did for a couple of years. But then she was, like I said, unconventional. She drove a car in Bombay. Right. So she drove her family all over the place. She was an accomplished sitarist. She played classical sitar.
Amazing.
She was, of course, an artist, and she exhibited and won some awards, but she was also a national badminton player.
Really?
So, yeah, so she did all this.
She didn't have time to get married.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say. She didn't have time to get married. And then finally, she married my dad, and we were thinking, after all these years, how did you settle for him? I mean,
Ouch!
but what happened with her, again, it's the whole unconventional thing, is when she did get married, and my dad was very liberal.
Yeah.
But my mom went into the stereotypical role of being the main caregiver at home. So she just segued into that. And I've got two older sisters. So her role was to look after the house and three of us and my dad. She did that really well. But along the way, my dad had a kind of a workshop, an industrial workshop. And my mother was the HR of the whole, we had about 20, 25 staff members. So she
Yeah.
was HR, she was accountant, and she was from the school of strict parenting. So she was really, really harsh with, if someone transgressed, boundaries and things like that. But I always remember, even growing up as a little girl, I remember my mom telling me and my sisters that we were equal to men and we weren't, disadvantaged in any way because of our sex. And we always, I mean, we did a lot of sports, my sisters and I. I left my mom at the age of 15. I went back to Bombay. My mom was elsewhere, and so we did all that. And then my mother started to work on the domestic stuff at home, like in terms of feminism. And she was like, you're earning for your husband and he drinks it all away and we have to do something. So she started doing all that. And everyone used to come to her for advice on living life on fair terms.
So what was her role within the community more broadly then at this point?
So within the community, I mean, in India, because we lived, in this house that had the factory and all that, the community was people who worked for us.
Right.
But her role within that was to just talk to all the domestic help, the women who, sometimes used to have to get money home only to have the husbands just drink it away. And so my mother was very strict, with the women that, don't encourage him and don't do this. And then what happened was I was the third daughter and my grandmother, I mean, I don't remember it, of course, but my grandmother, my dad's mom and my mom's mother-in-law said to her, oh, you should have a fourth child. And she was like, what for? Well, I'm quite old now because she had me when she was 39.
Right.
He said, I'm quite old now. No, but we have to have a boy. And my mother was, no.
No.
No. But the thing about my mom is my dad really supported her. My dad also treated us like little boys and girls whenever, if we had to dress up nice or something. But my dad was also a feminist, like my mom.
It doesn't sound like the relationship would have lasted if he wasn't on board.
Yeah. So that's about my mom.
Amazing. So did she receive, I mean, you said that Bombay was a fairly progressive place as she was growing up, but I mean, we're still within a kind of more traditional kind of structure. Was there a bit of pushback? Did she receive some negativity towards these more feminist kind of?
Yes, definitely. And one of the main things was that she wasn't married at the age of 20, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
The fact that she only got married at 33, there was a lot of pushback. What's wrong with her?
Right.
Why is she not getting married? That kind of thing did happen. So when my dad turned up, my mom was like, okay, you're here, you look nice.
Bar is very low. You'll do.
Yeah, but then they were together for about 45 years and he passed away. And then she really, really missed him. And then we'll get into it. One of your questions, I think, would be why I started it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So did she spend all her life in India?
She spent the first about 35 years of her life in Bombay. Then she was in a place called Belgaum with my dad. And then when he passed away, she was almost rudderless, because he was her main project after three of us,
Sure.
So we used to get her to come to the UK for 6 months of the year. And she really liked that because, my son was really young then. And so she was like his friend, his best friend. But then sometime in 2017, she got really ill and it was depression. She was in Barnet Hospital here. And she told the doctor, because they couldn't find anything wrong. And she told the doctor, actually, I'm suffering from depression because I lost my husband. And they said, but you lost him 7 years ago. And she said, yeah, I know.
It doesn't matter.
But yeah. So then she carried on living in India, in her house, because, there were people always coming and she had the help. And that's when I actually started Kundakala in my head because I had to give her a project to do. And I said to her, all this thing about female equality, why don't you do that? Oh, no, but look at me, I'm so old. She was, I think, 84.
Right.
Look at me, I'm so old. There's no intellectual stimulation, I can't walk properly. So she started all that. And I said, well, if you do me a painting every day, we can do something with it.
Oh, amazing.
And so she took it on because I know my mom and I'm a bit like that. You have to have a project. So it was like a project and she would start to paint something and every day I would do a video call and it was like I would critique her painting.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And every day it was like, oh my God, she's going to call at 4. I better get this done. So it almost got her out of her depression because she was doing something for someone else.
Yeah.
She was scared of me because if I called and she hadn't done something.
That's so funny that the relationship almost switched. Like she was the kind of stern parent and now she was like, oh, got to do my homework. Poornima's calling.
So it was like that. Then I started to amass a whole load of paintings and I thought, oh my God, I better do something with them to show her that I'm doing something. So in 2018, I went to India and, it's really hard to print, at least for me, because I'm not in that sphere. It's really hard to print a design from a computer onto fabric.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard to do it remotely because I was determined to do it in India so she could see it and, be involved in the process. So finally, I found a printer. So we did a collection of about 6 or 7 paintings that she had done, and we printed them on Tassar silk.
Right.
And then the whole thing started. And I said to her, wouldn't it be nice if we have women who stitch these, your paintings? So we started that. And then I tried to figure out what the best fabric was, because silk is not great if people are learning how to stitch.
Yeah.
So that's how Kundakala evolved.
Amazing. So it's really kind of spanned India and the UK.
It did initially when she was around.
Yeah.
But then I felt I needed to stop everything in India because it's hard to do it remotely, and I thought I'm going to focus on the UK because this is my background.
Yeah.
I work in the social sector.
Yeah, you understand funding and all that. Yeah.
Funding, and this is my comfort zone. I'd rather do it here. And the need is here as well.
Yeah.
In terms of the pandemic and the cost of living crisis, I feel the need is here.
Yeah. So what is the goal for it over here? Like what role is it performing?
So, when my mum passed away in April 2020, that's when I really became serious about Kundakala.
Yeah.
And I thought, what? This really gave her happiness in the last few years of her life. And she felt if she didn't do a painting, some woman somewhere would suffer for the rest of her life. So I thought to myself, I have to make this happen. At that time, I was doing a lot of reading on ethnic minority women. Right. And I found out that during the pandemic, there's this saying that is very cliched in the pandemic, we're all in the same storm, but in different boats.
Yes.
Yeah. I felt the storms were different,
Oh, right.
And I felt the storm was really bad for ethnic minority women. Because a lot of us, my son's older, but a lot of us had Zoom calls and the kids would pop up because we were homeschooling and it was, cringe and, whatever, depending on how you felt. But for ethnic minority women, the problem was that they were worried about going into debt and worried about putting food on the table. And I looked at some stats and I think about 49% were worried about that. And I felt, this is not great. And then enter the cost of living crisis, on the back of that. So I thought if we could run some kind of sewing and empowerment classes for ethnic minority women, we could help them save money by altering, stitching their own clothes, repairing, pulling up things that kids, kids' trousers or whatever.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. So save money. In that, you would reduce debt. And for the women who wanted to, we could give them a means to earn an income. However small it is, we would give them the means and raise their household income.
Yeah. Yeah. Even they could take on some alterations or something in their community. Yeah.
Exactly. So the idea was born. And so what I did was, I had made some scarves previously when my mom was around. So I started to sell them furiously to my friends. And then I used to corner people. I've got two friends who've got businesses. And so I was literally going to them and saying, give me money, anything.
No shame.
So, yeah. So with the scarves that I sold, with some personal investment from me, with investment from two of my friends, I was able to self-fund a workshop. It was a 4-day workshop to test out my idea. And I partnered with Hopscotch Asian Women's Association. It's quite a well-known old organization in London.
Yeah.
It's in Camden. So I partnered with them and said, give me 10 of your ladies and I will run this intervention. So I did that in July 2021. I bought some very cheap sewing machines, which broke almost.
Oh no.
that day. So I had a friend who funded the sewing machines,
Right.
and he was like, "Are you sure these are good?" And I said, "No, I don't want to waste your money and whatever." Anyway,
lessons learned.
Yeah, so we ran this workshop, and the idea was that we would give people tailoring skills.
Mm-hmm.
We would help them make scarves like this one.
I was going to say, is that one of your scarves?
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
So we made some scarves in the workshop, and then we gave the women employability coaching. So that is a session of 3 online workshops about starting your own business.
Fantastic. Yeah, because you can give them skills, but that's not enough, is it?
No. And it was quite a success. Women were engaged and stuff. So I took this idea to 2 funders, Smallwood Trust and L&Q, which is a housing association. And I said, give me X amount of money and I will run a pilot in 2022, a 6-month pilot, because I believe that if you teach someone for 6 months, they will get the skills.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's a good amount of time.
Good amount of time. And then, of course, it evolved. They agreed and they gave me the funding. I wrote an application. So it's not that they said, oh, we love you, here's the money. So I wrote an application.
No, I'm sure you worked for it. I'm sure you did. And you tested it as well, hadn't you? You'd already done a small pilot.
Yeah, I've done a small pilot. And the outcomes that I'm really interested in is integration of ethnic minorities in the community, mental health outcomes as a result of that, confidence as a result of getting skills. And then finally, perhaps an increase in household income because you're saving money.
Sure.
Yeah? Or making money. So I went to them and they gave me the money. And then it became really formal. So I ran 2 what we call now make and mend programs. I ran one in Hackney at the Pembury Centre for 10 women, and I ran one in Barnet for another 10 women.
Was this happening at the same time?
Same time.
Right.
Yeah. And I have a tailoring tutor, Penny, who I met randomly. So she delivers now, and she's become an intrinsic part of Kundakala.
Fantastic. I was asking like who's bringing the knowledge, the skills.
Yeah, definitely not me.
I don't know. I've seen your scarf.
No, but my sewing skills are not great at all. So anyway, so we had Penny, and it started to evolve as it went along. And I'm really grateful that Smallwood Trust is a very flexible funder. So I went to Smallwood and I said to them, look, I've done a session. Penny's done a session. And I do believe that, as part of this funding, I won't ask you for more money, but as part of this funding, I do believe every woman needs their own sewing machine because they can learn on it and they can take it home.
Fantastic.
It's not that they learn on some random machine and then they have to go home and figure out. So Smallwood agreed. So that's how the program evolved.
Oh, that's so good. Because they can learn, and then if they are struggling for money, they can't then go and buy one.
Exactly. I had some funds to buy them machines, but then I figured if they learn on, say a brother or something, and they go on another machine, it's going to be quite tough for them. So that's how it evolved. And I thought I'll take a machine, give it to them, but not give it to them till they graduate.
Yeah.
So that's kind of worked. And the other thing that I've incorporated into the make and mend was how about work experience, So Penny's got a curriculum now. So what she does is she starts off with, oh, here's the sewing machine. This is how you thread the stuff. And this is some basic repairs, what do you do when this happens, that. And then she starts really small, stitch a straight thing. And then she moves on to let's make a case to hold all your supplies.
Oh, fantastic.
And then it goes on to a makeup case. Then it goes on to let's make a tote. So she kind of progresses that.
Sure.
And then I said to Penny, how about we say to everyone they can make scarves? So that way my mom's memory still comes in with her designs. So they they do scarves for us, and they get it's like work experience. So they get a small amount towards that. And then at the end of the program, they make a garment for themselves.
Amazing.
And along the way, they get employability support. So they get one-to-one coaching. Okay, where do you want to take this? What's your situation? How can we help? Is there something you want to refer to? Oh, I need debt advice, so you go there.
Yeah, I need childcare help or whatever.
Childcare help, yeah. And then we run group starting your own business workshops.
Amazing. So you've done how many of these 6-month programs, the Make Mend program, have you done now?
We've done 2 in 2022, and we're about to start 3 this year.
Cool.
So next week will be our first 2 in Pembury,
right,
in Hackney, and then we'll do one near Waterloo in October. And then we're in talks with an adult college in Dagenham to run our program there.
That's so good. So initially you got in touch with the Hopscotch Foundation or enterprise. Yeah. Is that how you've continued to find the women to participate? Like, what kind of criteria are you looking for in the participants?
Yeah, so I didn't use Hopscotch for the pilots last year because I thought I wanted to do the outreach myself.
Okay.
Because I wanted to get to know the women, and because it's a pilot, I wanted to find out what their situation is. And I wanted to learn from that. So I used to literally stand at bus stops near the venue or schools.
Did you?
And give it to kids and give it to your mom. So I got quite a few like that. And likewise in Pembury, I have a contact there. So they kind of just, are you interested? Yeah. Are you interested? And that's really worked well. And that's the model that we're going to continue to do. And I feel there's so much of interest in this kind of stuff because with ethnic minority women, the reason I chose sewing is I think ethnic minority women have caring responsibilities like the rest of us, but there's another layer of caring in the sense that they have elder care.
Right.
And in most instances, it could be their parents or their in-laws that they have to care.
More likely to have a multi-generational household as well.
That's right. So what I felt was there were 3 things that I considered when I chose sewing. The first thing was, of course, the ability to do this from home. So they could do it in their own time. So they don't have to go out somewhere to work. They can, if they want to use their skills and they have that circumstance at home, they can go to a dry cleaners or something, get a job and, have the sewing machine there. But equally, they can just do it from home, So that was the first thing I considered. The second thing I considered was that in terms of the clothes that we wear as ethnic minorities, you can't get them from the high street shop, right?
Right.
So if there's a wedding, you would get something really nice, but you need it altered either for yourself or for your kid.
Sure.
Because it's not going to fit. So there's a market.
Yes,
There's an instant market in the community.
That's brilliant.
You could go to your mosque, or your temple, and you would instantly, if someone knows you're a seamstress, you could instantly have your ready-made client. So I thought
that's amazing.
And then the third thing is just the interest and the ability to, most of them have been interested in sewing, or their mums, so they've seen these role models.
Yeah, it's not too out there in terms of like getting your head around that as something to develop.
Exactly. And then lastly, it's also the tactile thing. If you're not feeling great about yourself or something, you're creating something that's beautiful and, it just makes you feel nice.
Absolutely. So what about, are there ever any language barriers? I'm imagining you're finding people from different communities with different first languages.
Yes. So that's a good question. There are language barriers and there are some cultural, I won't call them barriers. Sometimes they're challenges.
Sure.
Because most of the communities that we work with, the women that we work with, they have been a bit insular in how they interact with with other people. So, in terms of language, we only speak in English. Of course, when I'm recruiting, I speak in whichever Indian language suits the person talking.
What languages do you speak?
I speak Hindi, of course, the national language of India, which actually even Bangladeshis speak.
Right.
So I can communicate with that. I speak Marathi, which is my mother tongue, and I can understand Kannada, which is what I had to learn in school.
Right.
And then I have a smart, I can understand Punjabi and whatever. But Hindi is the thing
Just
that...
whatever, all of them. That's so amazing.
So I do that when I'm outreaching. And then we have the Somali women. I don't understand, obviously, and I don't know Arabic and things like that. So when they come into class, we only speak in English. But what I've done now is from the first cohort, I have 4 community champions, and this is paid employment that they get from me. So they outreach. So your earlier question was about outreaching. So they outreach for me. So if one of them is a Somali lady, so she'll go into the Somali community and wherever. So I'll tell her, you need to go to Lambeth now. I've got some funding there. So she'll go there, or she'll go to Dagenham. She'll make all these connections.
Yeah.
She'll recruit people, and then she will assist in the class.
Nice.
So we were 4 of them. What happens is the people who are coming into class feel that, oh, there's a face. And if I really don't understand what Penny is saying in English, I can ask.
Yeah, that must, especially if it's like a new thing, you're not sure what to expect, just to have somebody you've already met that you can speak to with ease. That must be really reassuring.
Yes. And then for the community champion herself, she gets upskilling on how to teach, because she's assisting in the class.
Amazing. So, their CV is looking better as well.
Yeah, exactly. And she's getting paid for it.
Fantastic.
So that's how I address the kind of communication or the cultural, interaction.
So speaking of the cultural aspect, and you were saying that obviously there's a diversity of people coming to so it's not like you can answer for anyone or everyone, but are you saying that traditionally a lot of the people that have been coming, their lives have been more insular, have been more kind of home-based, caring-based?
Yes.
I mean, obviously that's a big role that they have within their family. Has there been, to your knowledge, any kind of pushback from other members of their communities or within their families that are kind of maybe thinking, I don't know if I want her to be like working outside, having this extra independence, Yeah.
That's a great question, Zoe, and that's something that I've been pondering on a lot. So there has been pushback from some, mainly husbands. When I started Kundakala, my thing was that I wanted to allow the women to make choices themselves. I wanted all the interventions to be culturally sensitive. So I didn't want to put a layer of judgment on the interventions and say, oh, your husband's really controlling and it's not nice. You must come to class. I didn't want to do that because the woman has to go back and live with her husband.
That's her life. Yeah.
That's her life. So there has been pushback from a couple of people. It's understandable that your wife is going out and meeting new people, and so you start to worry that maybe she's not looking after the kids, or something. So one of the ladies actually had her husband attend a one-to-one employability support session.
Right.
Yeah. And he really liked it because our career coach included him, and she didn't bat an eyelid. And she was like, oh, you're here too. Okay, let's talk about it. And then he started to talk about, so how do you think I can support her in marketing?
Amazing.
So how can I, so he started doing that. He was the one who had a problem with the lady coming into class. So she had to, and all our community centers are very local. So she literally lived upstairs from the hall. So she used to always go and check on her kid. Like, she was feeling quite guilty in the beginning. But now, I'm not saying that her situation at home has changed completely, but maybe it's changed a little bit.
Yeah.
She's made new friends. She's got a little commission from someone to stitch some ethnic costume. So it's changed a little bit.
Yeah. That's so good. That must feel so good to know that you've helped her life kind of broaden a bit. And her confidence, I'm sure, has impacted.
Definitely. her confidence and the fact that she's interacting, outside of her house, and it's not just her husband, her mother-in-law, and her kids. I think it does help her.
Yeah, I love that he was a bit skeptical, be like, not sure, I want to check this out. And he was like, okay, how can I get involved? That's so
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah. So yeah. So and we expect that pushback actually because it's years of cultural.
Sure. And change is hard. Change is hard for
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah, and you can't change it overnight. So whatever little step that the lady takes, and if she feels okay, maybe when the kids are older, I can do this, or even if she's just like this particular lady started to make like the Indian tunic. She started to make that for her kid, and it was really nice. Yeah,
That's so good. And also, their kids will see them,
yeah,
that you're
yeah,
modeling
yeah,
some entrepreneurial, some skill learning
yeah,
and skill
yeah.
acquisition. That's really powerful too. And that will have change over years as
Yeah,
well, won't
yeah,
it?
definitely, definitely. I mean, that's the thing about our ladies, not just the community champions. I think all our attendees will be role models for their community, which I really like. I like that aspect. And, we've got waiting lists now for
Have
our
you?
programs. Yeah,
Oh,
it's,
that must feel good. Does
yeah,
that help with funding as well? Like the fact you've got people on the
yeah.
books?
It strengthens my case when I say that there is a need for this. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So you've got the two programs. You've got the six-month
Yeah.
Make Amend, and then you've got a follow-on course also, haven't you, with
Yeah.
some upcycling donated saris. Can you
Yeah.
tell me a bit more about that as well?
So I think, Zoe, the good thing about starting something is you can just do things on the fly and then act like it was part of the plan all
Oh,
along. So what happened was there's some older ladies in my yoga class who their mom had passed away, and so they really it resonated with them that I had started something in memory of my mother.
oh,
They said to me, "We've got loads of Arman saris and we want you to have them." Right?
oh,
And this was at the beginning of my Make and Mend last year. And, I never say no to anything. So I went to their house, got these beautiful saris, and then thought, oh, what am I going to do with them?
yeah.
And then I thought, how about just making products from saris? So I got a lady that I know, an Indian lady, to make some products. Just to see whether it was possible. And
Sure.
then,
What
of
kind
course,
of products? Garments,
um,
accessories?
yeah, accessories mainly, because all the saris were silk, and so
Right.
you need to have a lining inside, otherwise they don't hold. So she made some, and then I went to Penny and said, "Look, I've got these, and now I want to take all the graduates of our 2022 program." And put them on this upcycling project, and I'll pay them. I'll pay them for every session that they attend. So they
Yeah.
feel like they are contributing to.
That's like next level. That is literally the next level, isn't it? That's wonderful. Like I'm now being employed with my new
Yeah,
skills.
yeah. And it's supported employment, because Penny's still there. So Penny conducts these. So right now we're working on the saris. We've almost finished. We call it the Sari Upcycle Project. We have about 9 or 10 of our graduates turn up every week. So we had a beautiful brainstorming session,
Yeah.
that Penny really moderated well, and we were looking at price ranges, so what's a high end product? And Penny came up with the idea of a kimono, so you can make a
Like a
kimono.
robe.
Yeah, like a robe. And saris normally have these kind of beautiful borders. So the
Yeah.
borders could be incorporated as a design on the kimono. So that's a high end. And what's a mid level? So I came up with the idea of a computer bag, like a padded computer, laptop bag.
Sure.
So, and then a low range product would be tote bags, so we kind
Sure.
of ideated, we had a list of stuff, and then they just went on and did it, and so like I said, we finished the saris. I think we've got 3 or 4 kimonos. And what I really like is Penny always gives me updates because of my day job. I can't attend, so I'm living vicariously through her. But I do go for big moments, like next week when we start off Make and Mend. I'll be there to start it off, and when we end something, I go there and give them certificates. So
Yeah.
Penny said to me the other day, she said, "You know what? We made one of the kimonos and there was some material remaining, so we made shorts."
Oh,
So yeah, so that's what they do. They feel really great, and they're already thinking, like, a couple of the Somali ladies, one of them was telling me that they have a similar kind of fabric in their culture. I think it's called darik or dari, something like
Right.
that. And she said, I can make products from that, and that's what I'm going to start doing. So we hold their hand, we take them through the make and mend, we get our community champions, and then we also hold their hand through this upcycle project, whatever it might be. Right now it's saris. And then we say, okay, now you can make products. Look around, see what's at
Yeah.
home,
Yeah.
and just make products. And my plan now is to have a market in December.
That was going to be my question. What next? What do you do with the products?
Yeah. Right now, some of the products, not the upcycle, because they're not, ready. Some, like the scarves, are on our website. My friends have bought everything, so now I'm looking for other people to.
Oh, yeah. I'll put a link to those two in the
um,
show notes. Yeah.
and because everything that we sell goes back into the business. We're a community interest
Yeah.
company, so nothing is no profit. But also we're thinking of just having a market where, and I really need to get my act together and find a market if I want to do it in time for December. But my aim for the market is that we sell the products that they've made for Kundakala, but also give them a showcase to sell their products.
Oh, it's
So
such a nice idea.
there's a lady called Audrey who I love, and she's suddenly got this game of little kind of cases, so she
Yeah.
can make a spectacle case, a change holder, and they are beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And she was one of the people on the Make
Yes.
Amend program.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
It'll be so nice to just have Audrey, have a stall, and she can just go sell these if she wants to.
Yeah.
So that's my next project.
Yeah.
My idea is just to hire a hall and have a
Right.
Kundakala market so the ladies can do their stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
everyone will have their own store.
yeah. The ones who are interested. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are your hopes going forward?
So my hopes going forward are two things. One is obviously because it's new, I want the make and mend to kind of carry on. I want to go across London. Right now I'm in Hackney. I'm not in Barnet at the moment, but I was last year. I'm going to be in Lambeth and perhaps Dagenham. I just want to have a pod everywhere in London with the make and mends. That's one. Two is obviously the graduates going to upcycle. Yeah. Three is have loads of community champions who then get supported employment. And then lastly, this is my dream, and I tell the women this all the time, and they're like, "But do you really think we can do it?" What I want is, the community centers where we train the women. I want a room there which is maybe available 1 day or 2 days a week, where the women have their little shop and local people, they can come there to, if they want to make mend whatever, if they have something that they need repaired, or if
Yeah.
they have an idea to make a new product, these ladies actually do it for them, so they become little local tailors.
Amazing.
So that's what I want. That's my end goal.
That's so cool. The thing about sewing is it is in everyone's lives, isn't it? No matter where you're from,
Yeah.
everyone wears clothes,
Yeah.
whatever those clothes look like. Everyone's clothes need repairing from time to time, or everyone needs something refitting.
Yeah.
And that's such a nice idea because it doesn't have to be specific to one community. It could
Yeah.
be broader, or
Yeah.
you could keep it within your community as well. Like
Yeah.
it is suitable for everyone, isn't it? So what kind of relationship did your mum have with sewing? Did you ever see her sewing as you were growing
Yeah.
up?
All my life. So until the age of 25, my mom always made my pajamas for me.
Oh, that makes me
And
so
I,
happy.
yeah,
As someone
yeah,
who makes their pajamas for their kids, I love hearing that.
yeah, yeah. And I was like, yeah. So, and she used to sew a lot. Like I said, I'm not great at sewing at all. And we had sewing as a module in school in India. And my sisters, I don't remember if they were good or not, but they managed. And I don't have so my mom used to really like struggle seeing me like that.
Really? She's like, I can't look at what she's doing.
And of course, she was really impartial, so she didn't want to help me. But the minute my sisters left home, I was in school for two more years. She just did my stuff for me.
Really?
Like, okay, you're never going to learn this, so I'll quickly just fix whatever you've done. Towards the end of her life, she used to knit a lot. So,
oh, really?
I've got 2 nieces and my son, and so all of them, have jumpers and stuff from her.
Yeah. I wonder if in the future Kundakala could have a knitting workshop.
Maybe.
I'm just going to put that out there. That could be.
And we could get Tom Daly to come in.
Yes, absolutely. A graduation, can you imagine? Giving out the certificates and his jumpers. So good. Oh, I love that so much. That was so amazing. Thank you for telling me anything. Let me ask you, where can people find you? How can they support if they're able to?
So, firstly, I want to thank you, Zoe, for supporting us by giving us this platform.
Well, thank you for getting in touch with me and telling me about your amazing enterprise.
So people can find us on kundakala.org, the website, and also on our social media handles. In terms of supporting, I think, we've got some fundraising products. We've got the scarves that are made. And now, because we have 3 programs planned, we'll have loads more scarves by the end of this year. So just buying that, but also just amplifying what we do. It would be quite nice to, have chats with people. And, I'm looking for sustainable wrapping, because our products now, we always put them in cloth pouches, which the women make. But of course, you can't post a cloth pouch. So if there's someone who has sustainable upcycled paper that's used as wrapping. So we're kind of looking for, and we're so nascent as an organization that, I feel if there are people who have similar things, it'll be really nice to get in touch and see how we can work together.
Okay, awesome. And please let me know if the market comes about, or if you have a stall at a different market or something, please let me know. I'll be there for sure. I'd love to see that. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Zoe. And we'll be in touch. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and are left feeling inspired. For more info about the podcast, including show notes for this and every episode, head to checkyourthread.com. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have any comments, questions or ideas for future episodes, please get in touch by emailing zoe@checkyourthread.com or find me on Instagram @checkyourthread. Massive thanks to Patrick Potter for production support, to Sylvia Seller for the awesome logo design, and to Simon at Palm Skin Productions for the music. This ad-free podcast would not be possible without listener support, so if you feel you are able, please consider signing up to the Check Your Thread Patreon. For the equivalent of buying me a coffee each month, you'll be making it possible to continue producing regular episodes. Links can be found in the show notes and on the website checkyourthread.com. I hope you'll listen again next week. Until then, take care. Bye!